Hashtag Doggy People with Phil Lassman.
Hello, it's me, and welcome to another edition of Hashtag Doggy People, the show about life, love, and dogs. Now, can you imagine being a dog and being made to literally run for your life? Well, if you were a dog, you'd be a greyhound. Now, my guest this week represents an organisation that is fighting for reform. Please welcome Richard O'Brien of the Alliance Against Greyhound Racing. Welcome to Hashtag Doggy People.
Thank you. Yes. Well,
nice to have you here on board. Now, I'll tell you what. I've only ever experienced greyhounds as being lovely, docile pets, more like couch potatoes than blooming Grand Prix racers. Why do people use these beautiful dogs in such a cruel way?
It's a way of making large amounts of money. It's what started off as a fad with over 200 tracks, has now become completely commercialised, and the value is in selling the media rights, where these footage is sold all over the world, I mean, to countries like Venezuela, the Caribbean, etc., etc. So that's where the money is. I mean, people don't go greyhound racing these days. It's the spectator figures have been falling off a cliff. They basically run them from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. Obviously not all the same dog and not all the same tracks, but just to provide a product that the gambling industry can take money off of people for.
Why is the racetrack configuration so risky and so dangerous for these dogs?
One of the main reasons is a tight turns on them, and they all pile into the bends. These dogs accelerate so fast, and there's so much force put on their body. I mean, when they're racing, the actual bone mass density changes to compensate for the G-forces around the bends. And when these poor creatures are running at 45 miles an hour, if they slip and go into a railing, it's going to hurt. It's going to kill them.
Sure.
It's going to result in broken legs. It's going to result in fractures.
How many get injured? How many dogs get injured in a normal?
The last statistics released were for 2019. 207 were killed trackside. 123 were killed because basically the trainers and the owners wouldn't pay the treatment costs, and 142 were killed away from the track for poor medical prognosis. It's absolutely disgusting. And the injuries, there was a reported 4,970 injuries, and the total number of deaths was 710. So you're looking at 14 deaths a week, and that in 2021 is not acceptable. But the public don't realise that this happens. They all think that because it's legally allowed and it's run by the government, it's a self-regulating governing body, that everything's hunky-dory. But it's not. Those figures show you that hundreds of dogs are dying and thousands are getting injured, basically to provide a product commercially.
I know the owners, these breeders and such, they're quite tough people. I mean, how is a redundant greyhound recorded, for example? I mean, what happens to a dog that doesn't make the grade?
If I can go back to the start of the chain, 80% of the dogs, or just over 80% of the dogs in Ireland, in this country, in the UK, are born and bred in Ireland. There was a television report a couple of 3 years ago by RTE, one of the main television channels out there, which got hold of a report which had originally been commissioned by the governing body in Ireland, and they kept it hidden, which showed that 6,000 dogs a year were culled in Ireland because they weren't going to make the grade. Because of the racing in the UK, we obviously have an impact on that. So these dogs have been bred for our market, and there's 6,000 of them not being killed, basically. And there's a very famous picture of a trainer taking a dog to what they call a knackery, paying €10. The dog gets shot in the head, and I mean it's disgusting. And while the dog is still writhing on the ground in his death throes, the trainer is standing there waiting to get the collar back. Dogs over in this country, once they lose their commercial value, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them, they're not wanted any longer. I mean, some owner trainers take them home, some trainers keep them. And there have been cases, there was one a couple of years ago where the governing body had to go in and take almost 30 retired greyhounds off of one trainer 5 which had to be put to sleep because they're in such poor condition, as well as his racing dogs. And he basically was allowed to hand his license in. And all they did was ban him for life. He's already given his license in. No prosecution, as we're aware of. Once they're not earning money, they don't want them. And a good example, going back 20 years, very first dog I got, a greyhound, he was given to us by the kennels, no home check. We could have been using him for coursing, for lamping, it was a bait dog, so there's no checks. And the only money they took was £10, and that was for his collar and lead. The dog was absolutely worthless, And that was because he was, I found out later on, it's because he was prone to injuries.
What is wrong with the process? What is wrong with this situation? How can it be improved? How can it be changed?
It can't be improved and it can't be changed as far as I'm concerned. What is happening is these dogs are being put to known risks. They're very well highlighted. Their own statistics prove it. And since 1926, when it first sadly started over in this country, dogs have been getting injured and dogs have been getting killed. And dogs will continue to be injured and dogs will continue to be killed. Even if they use straight line racing, the dogs will still be bunching together and still be having accidents. So the answer is, and the technology is available, is to provide the betting industry with a product, use virtual racing. The technology is there. Not only would it stop dogs being harmed by the racing, it would also stop the cheating and it would stop the doping. And dogs are drugged with all manner of stuff. It's either to mask an injury or to cheat. Well, in either way, it's cheating.
Why use live dogs? If it's all about just, punters having a bit of a flutter and seeing who wins round a track, surely we don't need to use live animals. They can do it digitally now in this age.
Yeah.
All these ones that are coming from Ireland, instead of killing, why don't they offer them to rescues for rehoming? The market for greyhounds is actually growing. I know so many people who would love to have who have got greyhounds who are pets, and they're fantastic pets. They just want to sleep all day on the couch. They go out for a little walk. You don't have to run with them for 500 miles a day.
No.
People think that. They're not like that at all, are they? Your organisation is fantastic. I think you're out there. That's the reason I wanted to interview you guys, because I seem to see that you're doing the most to protect greyhounds, and I absolutely admire the work you're doing. How did that organisation get started? How long have you been going?
There's a few of us met at a parliamentary meeting, an APDOG meeting. I think it was October 2017.
Yeah. And
we'd all either was members of groups or we'd founded our own groups and was running little local groups, etc., etc.
Yeah.
We basically set a Facebook group up so that we'd make sure when we went to this meeting, we didn't all ask the same questions, because it'd be a bit embarrassing if 20 of you turn up and you all ask exactly the same question. And then it was suggested, well, why don't we all work together? Strength in numbers, and let's have a good crack at it, because it's, we need to get it banned. And we've all got different strengths, we've all got different weaknesses, but chuck it all in the pot and see what will happen. The next thing you know, we're up and running with a petition. Which a lot of people said, we was foolish and we would never get the signatures, because the greyhounds, they're the hidden dogs. Nobody talks about them. No, they get very few mentions. You're up against a massive industry. Huge industry. And we managed to do it. We managed to get 104,800 signatures, which is the most that's ever been achieved, And I think we managed to lift it up to a new level, and we also attracted a lot of people who are unaware. I've always run on a saying that it's not the people who already know who are going to win the battle, it's the people who don't know who are going to win the battle. Most people, when they find out a few things, and one thing we do is we only tell the truth. We don't sensationalise things. There's a bare fact. If you don't believe us, check on the governing body's website, etc., etc. We're on to the next step now with now the petition is done, which is writing to all the MPs. And waiting for a debate date to come up and take it from there. So it's a big battle, but it's so someone has to do it.
What do the large animal welfare charities think about the situation?
There is a there is a body called the Greyhound Forum who advise allegedly the governing body, and amongst the members, I won't give you a full list, are the RSPCA and the Dogs Trust. They basically say that they support welfare. They will not call for a ban, which is not helping the greyhounds. And they've just started a campaign, No Animal Left Behind. It's a load, about 50 charities joined together. But it seems to us that greyhounds have been left behind yet again. I can't remember a campaign by any of the big charities supporting a call for a ban on greyhounds. In fact, the only one is after the parliamentary meeting we attended, a group called Forever Hounds Trust, who are a member of the Greyhound Forum, came out in favour of a ban.
Do you think it would help if you know, some of the big larger dog rescues could actually have some dialogue with the people that organise greyhound racing to somehow compromise and actually say, look, you know, allow dog rescues to be involved to actually care for these greyhounds. So instead of them being wounded and then taken off to be culled, as you say, or slaughtered, that they come into the dog rescue centres for rehabilitation and rehoming. My wife runs a very large dog rescue charity, All Dogs Matter, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Yeah.
And she's often, you know, people ask her all the time, you know, do you have any greyhounds, retired greyhounds and older dogs? So I'm just saying, I'm not, you know, promoting her especially, but I'm sure that there are dog rescues up and down the country who would be only too willing to sort of, we don't want to come in and have an aggressive fight. We're only interested in the safety and the protection and rehoming of a vulnerable animal, a dog. So, you know, that's just something, the way I'm looking at it. If there could be some form of compromise, I mean, obviously yourselves are leading at the front to ban the whole operation, which, you know, everyone understands that, and obviously you're doing a fantastic job. It's somebody has to be a voice for animals, but I'm just thinking that, you know, your opposition is so enormous. You're up against some big boys there. You know, how realistic would it be to find some form of compromise where we can get all the sides together?
Well, first, I mean, the best way to protect the animals is don't expose them to
don't put them in the arena, of course. Yeah.
The second thing is, I mean, the industry, they do run what they call the injury recovery scheme, which is a scheme they had to start because so many people were just killing dogs because of the cost of the treatment, and it's not probably down to the fact that they haven't got any money. It's because they don't want to spend the money. If you've got a dog with a broken leg, there's no guarantee if you spend X amount of money that the dog's going to be able to race again. So they'd rather go out and buy a new one. At the end of the day, surely the financial burden should also fall on the owners, of the dogs. When the dogs are retired, they go to the industry. Also started a new scheme called the Greyhound Recovery Rehoming Scheme.
Yep.
And when the dogs go to these homers, they come with 400 quid, which is not a lot of money, and it worries us that they're going to be turned over, probably to the wrong places because people want to get a profit. You know, I mean, there's some big names involved, and they will. I'm sure they'll give the dogs the best that they can. You know, as Battersea, RSPCA, Dogs Trust.
Yep.
But what happens if a dog has behavioural problems? You know, they've only been given 400 quid. All these places that home greyhounds, I won't call it rehome because they've never been homed in the first place, rely on charity. Why should a profitable industry be propped up and bailed out by charities? It's their mess, they pay for it.
I am convinced that the general public out there, the dog-loving public, the people who want to adopt dogs, would welcome the chance, the opportunity of providing a home to an ex-racing greyhound. And if there was a shortfall in the veterinary bills, I'm sure that I can't speak for everybody, but I know that a lot of owners who want that particular dog would say, well, you know what? I want to bring this dog into the home. They want to look after them, and they would fund it. It's just a question of how you interact the general public who want to adopt and provide homes for these dogs. How can we get them to interact with the people who are running the racetracks and, you know, ultimately causing the injury to the animal, if that makes sense to you?
Well, they don't need to interact directly with the industry. I mean, people want home dogs. There's the Greyhound Trust, for example, is one of the bigger ones. They did have over 50 sites at one time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming towards the end of our time now. And if you've seen this program regularly, you will know I'm going to reach for my really big bell, which is quite noisy. Richard, this is the time that I want you to lean forward into camera. And we want to be able to help these greyhounds in any way we can. So, but we're going to nominate you to make an appeal for any charity that you think you'd like to appeal for. So I'll give you 30 seconds, look into camera, 3, 2, 1, action. Off you go, Rich.
Okay, there are many charities that need money. I mean, greyhounds especially. If you look on the Alliance Against Greyhound website, you'll see that we have supporters who run homing schemes and kennels. So if you could click on there, and if you'd like to donate to one of those, they're not industry backed, they're fully independent. And during these times with COVID, etc., and lack of fundraising, they desperately need help, and they do a fantastic job. And the people who run them are so dedicated, it's unbelievable. They deserve our help.
Well done. Well, thanks, Richard. Thanks for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we all love greyhounds. I know there's a lot of people out there who would like to adopt them. If you can, please support the work that Richard is doing with the Alliance Against Greyhound Racing, and we'll all be really grateful, especially the dogs. Richard, I think the work that you're doing is really magnificent. I'm not a betting man, but if I were, my money would be on the AAGR to bring about some genuine change. Good luck with everything you're doing, and thanks a million for being my guest today.
I really appreciate the opportunity, because I've seen all the big names you've got on here, and there's little old me sitting on my sofa with my dog.
Don't be, mate. You're just as important as any of them. Believe you me. You're a dog lover. You put yourself out. You put yourself in the arena for helping and the plight of these dogs. And for that, I absolutely salute you and respect you.
Thanks.
You know, if it weren't for people like you, you are the heroes behind the whole scene. That's why I've come out and I wanted you on the show.
No, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
No, you're more than welcome, Richard. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Richard O'Brien. So that's the end of our show, and I thought it went well. Thanks to our guest this week, Richard O'Brien of the Alliance Against Greyhound Racing. And now, I think you know what I'm going to say. Tweet me, email me, heckle me, whatever takes your fancy. But please, just get involved. So thanks for watching, and join me next time when I'm going to have a very, very special show for you. We're going to be joined by not one, but two doyens of animal welfare. I'm not going to tell you who they are, going to keep you guessing. So see you next time for some more #DoggyPeople. Stay safe, love your dog, and cheerio.